Hello, and thanks for taking the time to watch this short video. We would like to tell you about a new work going on in Africa called StoneHouse Gospel Ministries International. My name is Dave Taylor, and my wife's name is Cynthia. We've been coming to Kenya for over 4 years and are currently living in Kenya's fourth largest city, Nakuru. We have purposed together to give our lives in the service of God's people in Africa. For us, that first means proclaiming the good news of the kingdom to people who have never heard the gospel or have only heard it presented as a doctrine and don't know that it contains life-changing power. Secondly, it means demonstrating that gospel in a very visible way through living in front of them everything we teach. Lastly, it means gathering people together who have believed this message and begin teaching them how to become the visible family of God. It's one of the reasons we live together with this wonderful Kenyan family. During our time in Kenya, we have met many wonderful and helpful people, but the most helpful in assisting us setting up our ministry in Kenya has been Godfrey Kinoti. We don't know how we could have continued our work without his assistance and advice. He and his wonderful wife Priscilla have become some of our dearest friends. That friendship allowed us to openly speak the message we had come to bring. As we shared the gospel of the kingdom, our Father began breathing his life into people who had received his word, and the StoneHouse Fellowship was born. StoneHouse Fellowship began as a result of 2 pastors in their individual churches coming together to demonstrate what happens when brothers dwell together in spiritual unity. These courageous men of God and their 2 churches are becoming one family with God, and the initial results have been remarkable. These 2 pastors, James and Thomas, are also 2 of my best Kenyan friends. As our Father gave us courage to seek His will together, His love began to fill our hearts, and that created a new way for us to relate to each other and a new spiritual way to worship Him. It is no longer just about meetings and keeping traditions, but rather becoming an actual, real family, His family, with Him as the visible head of that family. When this family heart came inside us, we discovered that we were no longer separated by national, tribal, or monetary distinctions. We began living a shared life. It has begun to completely change our ideas of what church life looks like. We are already experiencing a more biblical life, but we realize we still have a long way to go in fully expressing His heart. When God's people start becoming a real family and start touching the reality of the body of Christ, children begin to experience God as a father to the fatherless. Children with no fathers or mothers begin to feel a sense of belonging, and something most of them have almost never felt in their entire life, a sense of being safe. The family of Jesus Christ is the answer to the terrible loneliness destroying our world. If we will but give up our own individual lives and let Christ live through us, everything around us will begin to change. Yet answers will not come easily, nor will people automatically understand how to be a spiritual family unless they are made into disciples and taught to follow Christ as the head of this family. Much training is needed. Many good intentions of the heart fail for lack of spiritual instruction. Many of these precious people lack basic Christian teaching and have suffered greatly at the hands of leaders who simply saw them as an opportunity to make money. That is why we are dedicated to finding faithful men and women and train them in the realities of spiritual family life each week. There are 15 to 20 pastors coming weekly to our leadership training to be instructed in the things of Christ. Each of these leaders then take what they have learned back to their churches and teach their congregations. One of the most exciting ministries that has recently opened up for us is our ministry of public teaching. Our Father has not only provided opportunities for us to speak in other churches, but we are now being asked to speak in large department stores, food courts, and schools weekly. This wonderful door opened when a shopping trip turned into a sharing session in the middle of a department store. The head of a Christian fellowship, who is also one of the supervisors, began talking to us about the Lord. The Christian fellowship consists entirely of the employees that work in a department store in Nakuru called Nakumat. After a time of sharing our hearts with this precious man, he invited us to teach all the employees in this large store on Saturday morning. We did so, and now we teach every week. Saturday morning at 7 before the store opens, we speak with up to 80 of Nakumat's 160 employees. Each alternate Saturday, we teach the other 80. So twice a month, we're teaching 160 employees. Interestingly, there are a few Hindus and even some Muslims who attend.
I want to say something about forgiveness and what it does in our lives. Something I want to say about forgiveness. Forgiveness offer a way out. When you forgive, it's like you are releasing yourself. Sometimes we think when we forgive, we become we are lesser than the one we are forgiving. No. Sometimes even today you might be a victim of forgiveness. You have not forgiven your wife. You have not even forgiven somebody who has done wrong to you. When you fail to forgive, you yourself, you are caught hold of what you have not forgiven. When we forgive, we make our way out.
That was my brother and friend James teaching in Nakumat. He's one of the pastors we work with in StoneHouse. Our intent with each of these ministries is to place indigenous people in leading positions so as to ensure the ministry's growth and continuation. James is an awesome man of God, and he is a highly effective teacher. As a result of teaching the Nakumat employees, other businesses in Nakuru's West Side Mall have begun asking us to come and teach their employees, like this food court with its 25 to 30 employees. We are also beginning to be frequently asked to speak in high schools throughout Nakuru. It has been encouraging to see their interest in the things we share. Most of the young people we talk to are tired of religious traditionalism and want the fullness of life that Christ talked about. Our burden for the youth of Nakuru is increasing, and so is their hunger for the truth. Without providing something more than that traditionalism, there will be no stopping the Islamic growth that becomes more invasive every year. There is a terrible cycle of poverty that enslaves all who live in the slums. It not only enslaves adults, but their children as well. To suffer through a life in the slums and then know your uneducated children are doomed to repeat that way of life is more than distressing, it's withering. Some families go without food one day a week to try and send at least one of their children to school. School fees, school uniforms, books, and other needed items keep thousands of children from attending school. All public and private schools require tuition fees and uniforms at the cost of the parents. No fees or uniforms, no school. And that is why we started the Learn program. Most of the older boys in this picture will have to work on small collective farms so their family can eat. There is little chance of school in their future unless someone helps pay the school fees and buys them uniforms. Most of these boys are without one or both parents. The man in the white ball cap is the grandfather of 3 of these boys, and he is raising them the best he can because their parents are dead. Not everyone chose to be in the desperate situation they find themselves in. Here are 2 boys from the previous picture that we were able to help put in school through the Learn program. LEARN is an acronym for Letting Educational Adoption Reshape Nakuru. This picture was taken outside our house when we first told them they would be going to school this year. This exciting ministry connects supporters to the children they support, and the amount of involvement is up to the supporter. We are also now working with a small school of about 85 students that is trying desperately to feed and educate the children in the poorest part of the slums. Most of them are orphans. We cannot assist every child, but with your help, we can make a difference in some of their lives. Working with so many impoverished children affords us the opportunity to interact with mothers who are either widows or just struggling single women whose husbands have abandoned them. 30% of the population of Nakuru is HIV positive. My wonderful wife Cynthia has begun small and intimate seminars teaching women everything from health care and nutrition to how to start small businesses together. These women are extremely grateful, and they are both listening and learning skills to better enable them to provide and take care of their families. They are responding to the training each week and have come to have hope for a sustainable future. Each session brings more hopeful ladies who want to learn how to help themselves and better support their families. Within the next year, we hope to set up a training center that will teach women how to sew and provide them with low-cost sewing machines. These precious women choose to work as a group because they not only want to improve their own lives, but the lives of their neighbors as well. They not only want to learn to be self-sufficient, but to share this training with the community they live in. Because of these seminars and other ministries we work with, we come in contact with many women whose current circumstances are so dire they no longer want to live. Like Phyllis, who lost everything when her husband died and was faced with her family slowly starving to death. Without some of the people we work with helping her, we would have lost an entire family. Or young girls like this 17-year-old holding her dying baby, dying because she had not consumed enough food to nurse her child, nor did she have sufficient money to buy her child formula. I have never seen a child in such an extreme condition. When I held the infant in my arms, it felt like an empty milk carton. If we hadn't come that day, the child would have surely died within a few days. This was her 4th child. Some might say, teach them not to have children. Rape accounts for much of the pregnancy in the slums. It's not a simple matter. We are left then with the knowledge there's a lot of pain and suffering in this fallen world, even if we choose not to look at it. The answer is not always simple or easy to find, but the question is. Here's a word from Amy Carmichael, a Scottish missionary to India who was familiar with the commands of Christ to remember the poor. Her words, spoken over 100 years ago in her book The Way Things Are, poses the question that all of us must one day answer. Are these things true, or are they our imagination? If they are our imagination, then let the paper on which they are written be burnt till it curls up and the words fall in the dust. But if they are true, then what are we going to do? Not what are we going to say, sing, or even pray, but what are we going to do? Again, we want to thank you for taking the time to view this DVD about our work in Kenya. Please consider helping us continue this ministry with your financial contribution. We need your help. More information on StoneHouse Ministries and how you can contribute will be on the next slide. May our Father in heaven bless you always. To donate or obtain more information on StoneHouse Gospel Ministries International, visit our website at www.stonehousegospel.org.